Thank you, Professor. Now, please may I request Professor Dr. R. Venkata Rao, Vice Chancellor, National Law School of India, University, Bengaluru, to give his keynote address, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, undoubtedly this is the best Dasara and Diwali gift that Global General Law School can give to the cause of legal education. Let me congratulate Professor Rajkumar and his wonderful team. And I came here about 10 years ago. What a decade of stupendous achievement. And my congratulations to you. When I received the invitation to deliver the keynote address, I was in a Hamletian dilemma. In the presence of galaxy of people led by the father of modern legal education who brought the turning point, Professor Madhav Menon, the builder of institutions like Professor Ranbir Singh, and then a man with a focus on tomorrow, Professor Rajkumar. I was having this dilemma as to whether I should accept this invitation to deliver the keynote address, and I was in a bit of pensive mood unusually. But I come from a family of music lovers. My wife too also comes from a family of music lovers. She said, "Why are you so pensive?" I said, Professor Rajkumar invited me to deliver the keynote address. And should I rush in where angels fear to tread? Then my wife said immaculately, "You are asked to deliver the keynote address, and don't you know, as a person coming from a family of music lovers, that keynote is the lowest note in the musical instrument." And therefore, Professor Rajkumar must have deliberately asked you to deliver the keynote address. And immediately, I got the wherewithal to accept the invitation. Thank you very much. Well, young friends, my initial hypothesis would be, we do not have falling standards, but we have only rising expectations. Let me tell you very clearly. And where the greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. And that was what made Mark Galanter to observe in his report on National Law School of India University, that Bangalore Law School is in the danger of becoming a victim of its own success. Bangalore Law School has been so successful that it has raised so many expectations. And Bangalore, being the eldest child of the family, he said, "Look, this danger beholds you." And the word Bangalore was introduced by Thomas Friedman in his book, The World is Flat. When he was traveling in a car along with Narayana Murthy, and looking at the technological development that took place in Bangalore, Thomas Friedman said, "An idea comes to me that today the world is flat." And Bangalore Law School has proved to the world that in legal education also the world has fallen flat. Because after Jesup was thrown open to law schools from outside the United States, it was National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, which won Jesup not once but twice. Last year, it was the runner-up. But vast remains to be done. Now, the same Thomas Friedman, after 8 years, wrote another book, The World is Flat, Hot, and Crowded. A question that comes to my mind is, with the birth of 23 law schools, is the world of legal education becoming a bit too hot and too crowded? This is a question that needs to be answered. Well, when you speak about the larger map of legal education, my mind always goes back to that wonderful metaphor of Parasaran, the senior, the former Attorney General, who said, in India, you have two types of lawyers, star lawyers and starving lawyers. In India, you have two types of law schools, star law schools and starving law schools. The distinction is no more between haves and have-nots, but have-lots and have-nots. This is a question that this seminar needs to probe into. Has the movement been from value creation to volume creation, or volume creation to value creation? This is another question that needs to be examined. Younger generation needs to be made aware of two interesting points. People today call the legal education, especially in law schools, as elitist. But prior to 1961, pardon me for my oversimplification, legal education was anything but elitist. Who were the people who were studying law from 1947 to 1960? Bengali Bhadraloks, people studying law where? In Bombay, Madras, Calcutta, Pune, Patna, Cuttack, Hyderabad. And show me a single individual from the first generation law families from below par income groups who have done law before 1961. The first attempt at democratization of legal education took place with the birth of Advocates Act and the Bar Council of India being entrusted with the responsibility of maintaining professional standards. But then the pendulum has swung to the other extreme. In the name of democratization, the question that needs to be asked here is value creation, has it given place to volume creation? But please remember, National Law School India movement was conceptualized by Bar Council of India Trust, Bar Council of India, and the judges of Supreme Court of India. And if a star was born in Bangalore in 1988, we proudly say that National Law School of India University Bangalore is sponsored by Bar Council of India and is the baby of the Bar Council of India. As to what direction it has taken later, it is for us to analyze. But the baptism of excellence in legal education, undoubtedly Bar Council of India had a role to play. But what is the situation today? Everyone says, oft-repeated statement of Manmohan Singh, you have islands of excellence amidst, I would say, oceans of not even mediocrity. Today what you have is quantitative glut and qualitative shortage. So when we have a focused discussion on legal education, can one size fit all formula be to? Or should there be multitasking that needs to be debated? Three basic questions I would ask, because this is a keynote address. First one is, are we continuing to produce only 20th century lawyers and not 21st century lawyers? Here I would make a reference. When I was a student of law, or rather when I was a law student, because I continue to be a student of law, from 1972 to 75, the legal curriculum used to focus only on the past. From 1980s, there was a shift in the movement, and the curriculum started moving from past to the present. But it has stopped there. Is there a place for future in legal education? Is there a place for future in legal curriculum? That needs to be examined. The second question is, when Professor Menon was referring to skill development, what do you mean by skill development? Should skill development be practice-oriented? Or should skill development be as per the 184th report of the Law Commission of India published in 2002, where at page number 54 and 55, 8 parameters of skills are given as far as skill development is concerned. Now, should we stop there? Or should skill development in 2018 be beyond all this? And should we search for something? The third most important question is, have national law schools reached a point of stagnation? Have national law schools reached a point of stagnation? One of my students, a very distinguished alumnus, recipients of Rhodes Scholarship, Miss Mansi Sood, while doing a BCL from Balliol College, University of Oxford, she has submitted a dissertation, the title of which is Legal Education and Its Outcomes, digging deeper into the success and failure of India's national law schools. This is, and it's my privilege to present a copy of this to Professor Rajkumar. And in this, she makes a very interesting reference to Professor Madhav Menon's point of view when National Law School of India University was established. She says, when National Law School of India University was established in 1988, please remember there was no globalization. Globalization was a phenomena 4 years later. And when National Law School of India University Bangalore was established, the focus was to turn legal professionals with focus on social engineering. That was it. But then she says, I quote from the report, the fact that National Law School of India University was an experiment meant that students who chose National Law School Bangalore had little or no expectations in 1988. That was a different breed. They had no idea about opportunities that awaited them, thus making it easier for the faculty to mold their thinking. The faculty found it very easy to mold their thinking. And at that time, please remember, the legal profession was narrowly viewed, with lawyers either joining the bar or aiming the judiciary. That's all. Lawyers joining the bar or aiming the judiciary. No other options existed. The so-called corporate firms of 2018 in 1980s were mostly family run in 1988. Please remember that. And for an outsider to join them was unheard of. In 1988, for an outsider to join a law firm was beyond anyone's comprehension. But liberalization combined with national law schools' early success changed everything. Therefore, the first few batches, there might have been focus on social engineering. But after that, the corporate sector hijacked the whole thing. And remember, the remaining law schools were established after globalization. And for the first 10 years from 1988 to 1998, Bangalore was the only law school. People thought that the experiment would started with a bang, would end with a whimper, and even the statutory bodies passed a resolution saying that we would wind it up. Professor Menon knows how difficult it was. But in 10 years, National Law School experiment proved to the world that national law schools could achieve in 10 years what IITs achieved in 40 years, what IIMs achieved in 30 years. Immediately in 1998, NALSA was established. The rest is history. But the disadvantage of the other law schools was that they were established after globalization. And therefore, most of the passing out graduates of the remaining law schools, social engineering was not even heard of. Whereas for the first 4 batches in Bangalore Law School, there were few isolated cases of social engineering. Then, ladies and gentlemen, I will ask you one question. What are we teaching in law schools? This is very important, the future agenda. Please remember, the days of solo lawyer are fast becoming extinct. Are we still continuing to teach the techniques of one-to-one counseling, dispute resolutions, saying that in 1975 in the United States, clocks started playing a major role, and law firms, including lawyers, everyone was anxious to convert time into money. Okay, and lawyers were measuring by stop clocks like a +2 student in a physics laboratory to charge the fees. Is it what we are teaching them? Or do we have any idea that in future the jobs for lawyers would be legal knowledge engineers, legal technologists, legal hybrids, legal process analysts, legal project manager, ODR practitioners, the management consultants, and the legal risk managers. Legal risk management is emerging as an important branch where the focus would be on the spirit of dispute avoidance rather than dispute resolution. But still we are talking of ADR, okay, dispute resolution. So are we training students for legal risk management? And you'll be surprised to know that 2 years ago, a measure was initiated in Australia and England, whereby legal market has been so liberalized that lawyers no longer have a monopoly over legal work. You don't need to have an LLB degree to have a monopoly over legal work. Non-lawyers can run their own legal business. This is what future is going to be. All of us, at least most of us, we have started our second innings in the 5-day test match. But as the 21st century lawyer, what is that you are supposed to speak about is non-lawyers can own and run legal business, while law firms can float on public exchange, stock exchange. This is going to be a trend in future. Or take external funding as private entities. This is shaking up the entire consumer market. In England, 6 months ago, the cooperative bank has said that it will offer legal services from 350 of its branches. Cooperative bank, still we are talking of law offices, cubicles, etc., etc. Therefore, my question is, are we training, are we teaching 21st century lawyers or 21st century lawyers? Please remember that. And in the absence of legal Darwinism, even the great dinosaur will become extinct. Please remember that. Therefore, when you try to speak about the future of legal education, please remember about the future careers of lawyers. It is going to be legal knowledge engineers and legal technologists. Therefore, my focus would be on that. The place for future in legal education should this seminar emphasize. There is a place for future in legal education. And the syllabus has to be made the future. Because please remember, unless this is done, what has happened to an extraordinarily brilliant young man from Yale Law School by name Mr. Mark Levy. He's a distinguished alumnus of Yale Law School, a gold medalist. In 2009, he committed suicide. And while committing suicide, he said, "I loved the practice of law, but I hated the business of law." This is what he said. "I loved the practice of law, I hated the business of law." Today in the United States, Professor Ranbir Singh was referring to legal firms. There are 250 largest firms which control the entire legal profession. United States. 250 largest professions. They not only contain the service capabilities in corporate counseling, mergers, acquisitions, litigation, tax advice, lobbying, and estate planning for the wealthy. Can India and Indian law schools be insulated from this? So when you are trying to set a future agenda for Indian legal education, please keep in mind these points. And only one thing I would refer to, notwithstanding the corrosive values that the law corporate firms have implemented in the United States, in 3 major law schools in the United States, 3 outstanding developments have taken place in the last 3 years. One is the Miami School of Law. They have started a program called Law Without Walls. It's available to you on the website. You can go to that. Miami School of Law, Law Without Walls. It is an exciting, part virtual international initiative that aims to change the way the law is taught and law is practiced. And people say it is a trendsetter. University of Miami School of Law, Law Without Walls. Then Michigan State University College of Law, whose 21st Century Law Practice Summer Program introduces students to the future of legal service. I repeat again, Michigan State University College of Law. They have a program called 21st Century Law Practice Summer Program that introduces law students to 21st century law practice. And then Harvard Law School, whose program on legal profession is an admirable blend of research, teaching, and collaboration between academics and practitioners. Just have a look at these 3, Miami, Michigan, and Harvard. And finally, I'd simply say, please remember, whenever you try to bring about a change, it is not mountains ahead to climb that wear you out. What will be the height of mountain? The problem. But it is the pebbles in your shoes that's important. All of us have pebbles in our shoes and complain about the size of the mountain. Therefore, we are living in fascinating times of 4th Industrial Revolution. And the 4th Industrial Revolution is not a product revolution. It is a system revolution. Youngsters must have observed that the first Industrial Revolution, which was based on steam power and mechanical production, was a product revolution. The second Industrial Revolution, which focused on assembling lines and electrification, was the same. But the third Industrial Revolution, which was on electronics and computing, was also the same. But the 4th Industrial Revolution, which has combined physical and digital systems, has completely transformed the interaction between humans and machines. And legal profession has also been impacted on that. It is a question of time before the same has an impact on India also. And before that, we should wake up and make our law schools and universities relevant. Otherwise, what would happen is, just the last sentence, I'm not a pessimist, but I'm quoting it from Brian Tamanha's book, Failing Law Schools in the United States. The title of the book is Failing Law Schools, written by Brian Tamanha. In the United States, she says, statistics establish that there will be 25,000 new openings for young lawyers in 2018, whereas law schools will be producing 45,000 graduates. For law students who have taken enormous loans to undertake the legal studies, their anger is understandable. Some have even raised court actions against law schools in the United States. They went to the court for the refund of their tuition fees plus damages, arguing that there is an ongoing fraud in the legal education. In the legal education industry that threatens to leave a generation of law students in dire financial straits. This is Brian Tamanha in Failing Law Schools in the United States. Let that not spread to this country also. Therefore, let this one-day conference, very well conceived by Global General Law School, pose the right questions, because the objective of any workshop or a conference is to enable us to pose the right questions. We will not be able to come with durable solutions. Thank you very much, sir, for the answer.
Thank you, Professor. Now, I request Professor Dr. Usha Tandon, Professor in Charge, Campus Law Center, Faculty of Law, University of Delhi, to deliver her special address.
A very good morning to all of you. It's indeed an honor for me to share this dais with those great personalities who happen to be my teachers and my mentors. I have been one of those fortunate persons who have been the student of Professor Madhav Menon. And what I am today, I really owe a lot to my mentor, Professor Ranbir Singh. And just now we have listened this enriching, enlightening address from Professor Venkata Rao. Well, I'm also thankful to Professor Rajkumar for having invited me and making me a part of this August gathering and a very, very relevant discourse. But more than thanking Professor Rajkumar, I would like to congratulate him for thinking to invite a person representing that branch of legal profession or legal schools which have completely been comfortably forgotten. Whatever I'm going to say may be a little bit different, or I may say one of the things which for certain reasons have stopped to be recognized. I'm going to shed certain light on that. Initially, when I got this invitation, sir, when you came in our law faculty, it was the same day that we got this invitation. So I will say that you have been so lucky to me that which was immediately followed with the invitation. So at the first sight, my impression for this invitation was a little bit non-believing. I couldn't believe that I'm made to sit with such great scholars, of whom I'm really made of. But then, of course, it was also a challenge for me that this is an opportunity whereby I can contribute a little bit, whatever discourse is going on this legal education and the legal profession. So far, I have been talking on the subjects which I have been teaching. But this was something new for me, which I have been living in, which I have been experiencing in, but have never got perhaps a platform to put my experiences at a formal platform. So many rounds of research, many reports, many surveys, so on and so forth. But then at the end of the day, whatever this slot of 15, 20 minutes is given to me, I thought, let me share some of my experiences with you, and that is what I'm going to do. Well, it was just 6 months before, in March 2018 only, I was invited to inaugurate one seminar by one of the private law university in Dehradun. The seminar was on the environment, which is one of my areas. After the inauguration, I was requested to chair one of the sessions, maybe that the chairperson, which was previously supposed to come, has not come, and that is how that fell on me. I readily accepted that request also. So it was a technical session. There were total 7 papers going to be presented. Out of those 7 papers, 4 papers were from that law school itself. Fine enough. But when I have heard their presentation, saw their presentation, very beautifully made presentations, PPTs I'm talking about. They were talking about the concepts, heavy concepts in environmental law, which may be precautionary principle, maybe absolute liability principle, sustainable development, talking about the cases, what Kinkri Devi, this and that. You know who were the presenters? The students? The students were merely first year, second semester, or at the most, third semester, second year, first or second year. Now, during that presentation, when I put a little bit question, because I was a little bit impressed, oh, they are aware of all these kind of principles or the law which they're talking about. And at that particular moment, I came to know that it is just collecting material from here and there that are speaking. They really don't know anything about that particular concept or the principle, with the pretending to show that you really know it. And we're talking about presentation in this seminar. Anyway, I had to deal with the students. I have to have, as a teacher, motivate them. Then after the session, I talked to the principal. I say, what are you doing all these? Your environmental law is in the 3rd or the 4th year, and herein your students are coming not 1 or 2, it appears to be a race, 4 students. Then she told me, no, we have been told, this is a pressure on us, that we have to send them out, This will enrich their profile, CV, or this is how they will learn by doing. I said, this is learning by doing. This is so, the basic principles are not even known, and you're making the children to make the presentation. This is a superficial kind of the learning. But then at the end of the day, the things came out that there is not that much freedom with them, even though they are convinced with certain kind of the things, because they have to work in certain kind of the mandate. Then coming to the next instance, which we have been experiencing as a law teachers, as administrator also. Every law school has that moot court competitions. They are holding the competitions. Students are going out, no matter where the law school is, whether it is in that in urban area or the village area. Each and every child these days experiencing these moot court competitions. My law school, University of Delhi, also holds annually this moot court competition every year. And this has risen to the international level. This is KK Luthra moot court competition, very prestigious. The students come prepared like anything. And when we hear them, we come to know so many things which otherwise we are not aware of, the art of arguing this and that. And you know who are the winners mostly? Mostly who are the winners? The winners, if it is a 5-year law school, again, the winners happen to be from first year or the second year, that is second semester or the fourth semester. Now, again, we know that in this scheme of this law program, in the first 2 years, law papers are not taught. They are introduced. They are not taught. But when we are talking about moot court competitions, they can involve any complex kind of that thing. But they are really impressing us therein. There's a difference between the presentation which I was talking about in the seminar by the students of the first and the second year and herein when they are arguing and winning the trophies therein. They know all, not only that focused area, but everything around it. But still the thing is that is it a systematic learning which we are inculcating in our students? Or it is some kind of a disruptive learning? We have to think over it. We, the teachers, when we go in the classes and when we teach and initiate a dialogue, one of our efforts happen to be to teach them in a systematic manner. Just now we have heard the addresses by Professor Menon, Professor Ranbir Singh, and others, how systematic it was. This is a topic. Number 1, number 2, number 3, ailments, solutions. So this we say learning in a systematic manner. So by these kind of the competitions, are we really practically exposing our students to that systematic matter, way of learning or not, is one of the things which really wonders me. Then there is another instance, then I will come to the general kind of the things. It is again few months before. One PhD scholar came to me with one paper in her hand, which was a permission from her law college. She wanted to have certain empirical study. And she wanted my permission. Why? Because she wanted to interview some of the students there. So before giving the permission, I just have an interaction. Why? Because the teachers, as a researcher, we come to know what are the new areas which our young researchers are researching on. So when I interacted, I'm really, sorry to say that she was not even aware of the basics of the research methodology, particularly if I'm talking about the empirical. We had a long discussion, and then, of course, thereafter, I could see a change in the whole, the physical change of the face after having those discussions. Just now, a thing was mentioned that Delhi University Law Faculty has recruited a huge number of assistant professors. There also, we had occasions because we have interviewed the teachers or the students or the product of all kinds of legal these institutions. And there also we came to know that, Professor Rao has said, when expectations are more, then the challenges are also more. Or maybe that the expectations from some of the law schools of the public expectations are more. And when with that expectation, something is seen, and therefore, it is disappointing. The topic of this particular conference, as we all been knowing, is what is legal education? Now, this topic itself is indicative that all is not well with the present legal education. The same kind of things were raised, talks were raised around 30, 40 years back. At that particular time, I was a student like you, and I used to hear the professors and the teachers of that particular day. So the worry of that time, I'm talking about 80s, the worry of that particular time is that the standards are falling. What standards? Standards of lawyers, standards of lawyering are falling in the courts of law. And this was because of the poor teaching in the law colleges, in the law schools. Because ultimately, this is the education which they utilize or display when they go in the bench or the bar. And therefore, my learned predecessors have talked about how the Bar Council of India Act came, and then there was a move, and ultimately, there was a paradigm shift. There was a paradigm shift in the whole of the legal education so that it can impact the legal profession. Now, at that was an era, 80s was an era when social development was at its height. More and more talks and efforts and aim was law should be seen as a tool for social development. And this concerns law as a tool for social this development mandated what we are saying integrated law degree, in which not only the law subjects but also the other social science subjects are there. Now, what was the mission of National Law School? What was not mission, vision, I'm sorry, vision. What was the vision of National Law School? Whatever research I have from the reports here and there, I came to know that the vision of National Law School was to produce a body of highly qualified law graduates who will go to the bar and the bench. And this is how the legal education in the bar and the bench will be improved. Now, after 30 or 35 years, this vision, having the National Law School, NLS IU Bangalore therein, whether this vision has been fulfilled or not, I don't have to say anything on that. What to talk about, that the law graduates, highly trained law graduates of this, what to say, university, are they joining? They are not even looking at that. What to talk about, the joining there. So whether, this is a question mark, whether the national law schools have been able to fulfill the vision, both visions, this vision and the other, law as a tool for social development, as we have been saying. Then the literature was very interesting, and we also came to know that endeavor was, it should be, there's nothing wrong in having those passionate and certain benchmarks before us, that the vision is, related vision is to create the Harvard of the East. But again, the thing is, not questioning why the Harvard here. The thing is whether Harvard is having 5-year law school. Whether Harvard is admitting students after schooling. Till date, it is admitting after the graduation. Then there are other things when we are talking about the current legal education. And that is, we are not even able to really understand why the word university is added therein. University is always multidisciplinary, public or private. This is a university. It has many disciplines. Law is one of them. And national law schools are single discipline. So this single discipline is calling itself the university. The mandate of the Bar Council of India or the concerns of that particular day was definitely to create a specialized legal institute. Specialized legal institute we did have, but that is in the name of the university, which we do find the literature that this term perhaps is not that very happy. Then there is another thing, if we really want to know, these things also content, nomenclature, how the things are depicted, they also matter. That is the national. Now, I have surveyed all national law schools are the creature of a state statute, without any exception. So if they're the creature of a state statute, then why the word national is here? The last one is perhaps National Law School, Haryana. What's wrong if we are saying Haryana National Institute? And coming to the first, National Law, NLSIU, a National Law School of India University. Oh, is it a university or is it a school? So there are, the way it is labeled, the way it is designed, the way it is projected is misleading. It is misleading. Why? Because maybe it is misconceived. So these are some of the things which should not continue. Why? Because we are not thinking on it, or we are just accepting it as it happens to be. Then there is another, then there happened to be, I myself as a ad hoc teachers of that particular time have attended those kind of the workshops and the conferences where catchy word was, catch them young. That is, here we are coming immediately after schooling. And herein the things are equated with the engineers, like engineers or the persons who go for the medicine, join it immediately after their schooling. I happened to interview many of the engineers. You know in what interview? In one of the UPSC interview for the position which has nothing to do with engineering. Nothing to do with engineering. I was really surprised why all these engineers are applying for the position of what is this assistant, what is that known as Provident Fund Commissioner and all that. They say the requirement is that the person should be graduate. And they are graduate. They are graduate with 4 or 5 years. And they are coming with graduate of 3 years. And again, this is an open fact. How many professionally trained engineers have really ended up taking engineering as a profession? Then now I'm telling you a very interesting part of legal profession. In our legal profession, there are many examples wherein the persons have excelled as legal luminary, but they never opted law as their first choice. You want to give me the examples? Many examples. One of the examples which I can give you is of our then Chief Justice of India, Justice Bhagwati. He came to my law school and then he narrated this story. He said, I wanted to be the mathematician. He had his master's in mathematics. And then, of course, that was a kind of a time. Then he did the law, and later on, we know the kind of stature. We had very many Chief Justices of India, but the stature which Justice Bhagwati has acquired is, of course, different. Few days before, Mr. Fali Nariman came to my law school, and then he told us that law came to him as a last choice. So on and so forth. Then we find, if we look back to our legal profession, we look back to the icons, doyens, who have earned their name, we find that some of them were slow learners. Some of them, after having even obtained the LLB degree, just was struggling for a certain number of years to immediately come to know, oh, this is their cup of tea, practice, or the teaching. There happens to be struggling period. They are doing the LLB, thereafter they are doing the masters in some other. Just now this reading, if this is an alumni of National Law School, you know, this MSc is in which discipline? This is not in law. This is in education. So if she is examining the failures and the successes of legal education, it's not a legal study. This is a discipline of education. So even after, so how can we really say that the age, at that particular age, at the age of 17 years, the child should close all other options and should have only one option? It is now or never. This now or never, I don't think, is really practically also is giving that particular kind of the fruits. One of the live example herein is this. Then there are private law schools. There are private universities. Private law schools or private universities which have started their law schools with 5-year programs, later on has added 3-year program also. This makes us to pause for a moment. Is really a 5-year law course heavy on 3-year law course? Don't talk about 3 years. Oh, that's unprofessional. If it is that so, why is it that there is a addition of these 3-year programs here in newly created institutions? And some of our panelists have also talked about, incidentally, the future of legal education. If I have to talk about one sentence on it, I may say the future of legal education is inscrutable, uncertain. We cannot predict it. Who knows? Tomorrow, the national law schools also add on 3-year law school, 3-year course. I'm not talking about replacement. I'm talking about adding of that. If the future is so uncertain therein. Now coming to, and these private law schools are having their own problems. I had to visit as a team of UGC to some of the private law schools, and the problem which I have come to know, it was in, again, they are in the UP side. The problem is that they are having very good buildings, the management, and they have got seats sanctioned from Bar Council of India also, but they don't have students. So that is a problem to bring the students. And then, of course, there are so many other kind of the things, the problems there also. So now the question is it that the mushrooming of not only private law schools, now 23 national law schools also, have reduced, what I can say, the importance of traditional law schools or public universities, which I'm representing here, public universities or the law school as administered by public universities. Now, public universities are those universities, like I'm talking about Delhi University. Now here, if I'm in Haryana, Rohtak University, or if you go there, Punjab University, and Lucknow University, BHU, so on and so forth. The universities which I have taken the name except Delhi University are the universities which have added 5-year law school also. They have not replaced. They had their 3-year, but they have added 5-year law schools therein. In Delhi University, things are being contemplated to include this 5-year also, but this is at a very, very initial stage. Now, if I'm talking about particularly of my law school, Delhi University, I can say it with conviction, without any doubt. It is still the dream destination of law aspirant. We are having, even though we are having huge seats, the number of students which apply, look into the number of the students, till date, I'm not talking about tomorrow, yesterday, till date, we are attracting the best students. Because of the large number of students, we are having a mixture of all kinds of students. But here I would like to talk about those students who really come committed, dedicated for the legal profession. We do have here children who are the son of Supreme Court judges, High Court judges, bureaucrats, ministers, so on and so forth. And if the yardstick for the success of any institution is how its alumni has been serving the society, then I think in India there is no other law school than the Delhi University Law School, particularly the Campus Law Center, which I'm representing, who has given so many its alumni to serve the nation. I'm really very proud to say you here, the students, that today in the Supreme Court, 9 sitting Supreme Court judges are from my law school, And our Union Minister, Arun Jaitley, Mr. Arun Jaitley is our alumni. Previously, Kapil Sibal was our alumni. Our alumni are the Chief Justice of Bhutan Supreme Court. Our alumni are sitting there as a member in that Hamburg court of that sea. And this is Campus Law Center, which has provided the maximum number of vice chancellors to the national law schools. I'm very happy, very delighted to say that the vice chancellor of this university belongs to my law school. I'm really so proud to say that the first vice chancellor, the director of National Law School of Bangalore, was also from my law school. Why? Because at that particular time he was there. Now, why is it that we are having that internet is full of certain kind of the news? Before I come to that particular news, there is another instance through which we have undergone, which I would like to share herein. 10 years before, public universities like mine were having a very peculiar kind of a problem. What was a peculiar kind of a problem? Our students, you know, we have introduced all that moot court and whatever clinical papers are there. Our students are also interning, going there. Delhi, it's not difficult to find the internship. But when they were coming back from the law firms or even from the judiciary, or wherever they were going for interning, they were coming back with broken heart. And they were telling us, the teachers, that in that atmosphere, they are not welcome. They are seen as if they are less competent. Because that mindset of the employer is as if the product of national law schools are of different breed. And there was a time when the then professor in charge and the dean had to write letters to the judiciary, to the corporate firms, that see, you just test them first without any biases and the prejudices, and then you come to know who's who. But now that time has changed. These days, the judges and the corporate, the lawyers, maybe the government law officers or otherwise corporate law firms, they're asking us to send their students therein. And in a course of conversation, particularly I'm talking about the highest judiciary, the Supreme Court and the High Court of Delhi. So when in the conversation, I say, what is this change? How come there's a change in this mindset? They say, we have come to know that NLUs do smart work. But when it comes to do the hard work, it is the products of your law school which have been doing so. So now my students, the students from the traditional law school or the public universities are not facing in this problem. We are facing another problem. The other problem is that whenever there is any advertisement for any kind of a position, and they mandate it first division, and we see that this new structure for the legal education, they start from almost 70% to 75%. In that recruitment, we had seen, they were having 9.9, whatever the CGPA and all this. And as far as my law school is concerned, they stop at 60%, they stop at 65%. So this kind of a challenge we have faced, and there was a time when in my previous term as a PIC, I have written to one of that employer who has mandated it, that this is the first division, and later on they have changed their advertisement, and they have said that for the Delhi University Law Faculty, it is good second division therein. Okay. Now, not taking much of this time, I was reading some of what we are saying, not only blogs, but it was in the form of the report also. And they were written by some of the alumni of this NLU, particularly I'm talking about the NALSAR. And that I have come across to one of those writing which I have written that NLUs are systematic failure awaiting rectification. And the NALSAR alumni have said it, that these were, we all know that discord and protests which are unfortunately happening, which have entered even in these national law schools because of all this. So he has written that the very aim of having these NLUs was to create a generation of social engineers. And he's narrating his own experience in saying that we are fighting for minimum standards and what we say dignity, right, dignified right to education, and we are so much drained to be of any use to the society. So these are their pains. I have only 2.5 minutes now, because 3 minutes this has come to me, and we are a very, very disciplined person. You see, none of the system is perfect. Whether it is 3 year, if 3 year is not perfect, 5 year is not perfect. If public law schools are not perfect, national law schools, private law schools are not perfect. Each one has its own merits and demerits. My panelists, before that, they have listed, again I will say in a very, very systematic manner, which in their own manner are the things which are ailing. And all through the back of their mind happen to be national law schools or the 5-year law schools. I have not mentioned the other kind of the thing which has erupted in this. We are having so many, these are the matters of concern to any legal educationalist. Concerns are of the suicides, of the drugs, sex, so on and so forth. But if I'm talking about here, about public university, that what ails, if I have to put in that, what ails public universities, then at least 3 things I would like to mention which we are grappling terribly. So one of the things which ails traditional law schools in public universities is very, very poor infrastructure. The number is large. As a public institute, we would not like to cut the numbers, but we would like to have a good infrastructure. We are not having even a reasonable infrastructure. Infrastructure in terms of all these auditoriums and these seats. Infrastructure in terms of library. We are nowhere near to the NLUs when we compare ourselves with those resources. Another thing which ails the law schools to which I belong is that of not having the functional autonomy. I am a head of 2,200 students institute, and I'm just the professor in charge, which is the lowest in the this administration. Whatever I say has to go up to the vice chancellor, and between me and the vice chancellor, there are so many links. So I cannot even employ one person on the contract basis for my office. So for each and everything, we have to ask for the sanctions and approvals, so on and so forth. And the third thing in which I can say is ailing these institutions is lack of institutional research. We do have research, but that is at the individual level. It is not at the institutional level. Again, here, the things come in of this autonomy. And all this gets more worried. You know, you must have heard of HIFA, that higher education financing agency. Now, UGC is not giving us the grants. Grants are replaced by loan. UGC is going to be replaced or has been replaced by HIFA. HIFA says you take a loan from us and then you create your own sourcing. So these are the ailments which we are grappling with all these. And I would like to conclude by one sentence only, and that is that when we look to the future of legal education or the legal profession in this scenario, which is liberalization, commercialization, globalization policy, what I see is and looking to the kind of population we are having, all these kind of the things, that how so many private universities, private law schools or national law schools may come up. But as far as the importance and the significance of public university is concerned, it is going to retain its prominent position. That is how I perceive it. And therefore, it cannot be ignored in any discourse. If we are ignoring it, that means we are really not talking about the legal education of the profession in the holistic term. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That was a very powerful defense of my alma mater, Campus Law Center, Faculty of Law, Delhi University, and thank you so much for those comments. We do have some time for a discussion. Professor Alka Chawla is not going to be present in the next panel, and so we'll gain some time there, and so we will have a good Q&A session. So this is open for, what I would like to do is to invite 5 questions and have our distinguished panelists to respond to it, so or comments, whatever you like. So please feel free to, first preference obviously to students, but others are most welcome. I also want to recognize the distinguished presence of Mr. Yusuf, from the Law School Admission Council in the United States. Middle of next month, 16th and 17th of November, Harvard Law School, the Center for Legal Profession there, and the Law School Admission Council from US, the people who organize the LSAT are going to be doing a major conference on the future of legal education in India, and as a run-up to that, they are present here. So thank you very much, Yusuf, for your very presence here. All right, it's open for questions. All right, please.
I'll just stand here if I'm visible. Good morning, everyone. I just have a question, and it's a very short question, that a lot of students after their BLLB or LLB per se want to do their LLM from their higher education, basically from not India, but an outside university. US, we've heard about Harvard, we have Yale, we have Cornell, we have UK universities. Why is there a drop in the Indian law schools or like an LLM here? I'm pursuing my LLM from Jindal. I'm an alumni. I've come back to Jindal. And I didn't want to go out because I just thought that this is the best option I have in India for now. And I came back. And the reason why I came back is because I know the administration and I know the faculty and I know the students and everybody. But I just have a question saying that why does everybody want to go out? Is it because the universities in India prefer education that is delivered in the US or UK rather than India, or is it just because it's become a trend or how students foresee their education to be better in the US or the UK as compared to India?
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
Good morning, professors. My question is elucidating on what Professor Madhav Menon had spoken about how LLM should be streamlined into teaching of towards the faculty or the academics. My question is regarding, is NET redundant in that aspect? Because NET is just a test which tests the memory of a candidate and not the technical know-how or of the teaching experience which a candidate is supposed to have. And in pursuance to this question, my follow-up question would be, should professors be allowed to practice so that they constantly have the practical knowledge along with the teaching faculty?
Thank you for that.
Privileged to be here. The Trinity of Law, Professor Menon, Professor Ranbir Singh, and Professor R. Venkataraman is my teacher. So in medical profession, there is a lot of demand that the doctors should practice in rural areas so that they can attend the rural population. I was inspired and motivated by Professor Madhav Menon, who is the father of legal education in India. are the socially relevant present lawyers are. And Professor Venkatrao garu, he posed a question. Are we making the 21st century lawyers or 20th century lawyers? How to make them socially relevant? Do you have should we have a mandatory provision? Maybe the Bar Council of India as the regulatory body, that they should serve the purpose, social purpose, that it is what you call mind-blowing for me, mind-boggling for me for several years. But today I am really inspired by the trinity of law, these three legal luminaries. I thought of it, I think I can get answer from one of them.
I know. We'll have one more question and then we'll come back, Deepik.
Good morning, sir. My question is, how unrestricted expansion of private university has affected quality of professional education in legal arena? Thank you.
Thank you for this lovely presentations. My question is very broad, but I was interested in knowing, how do you institutionalize research? The larger narrative in institutions is that research is an individual enterprise. It's also a lifestyle for a scholar. But there is also this conversation about lack of it in our institutions, especially legal institutions. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on how do we institutionalize research at university levels? Thank you.
Well, I tend to forget the questions altogether. So if, LLM abroad question, one reason which some students told me is that you can have it in 9 months if you go abroad, whereas you have to here do it for 2 years. That's a small thing. But more importantly, I believe that the LLM course structure, the content of it, is an improved LLB, nothing more. Therefore, a good LLB will not go for an LLM because you don't get any value addition to your already existing knowledge. That's the way we had structured LLM. Whereas if you go abroad, probably there is a degree of specialization, an integrated approach also. That may be the reason. And many students go because they don't want to come back also, that there is a chance of a campus recruitment, all these considerations. One of the reasons why the UGC has reduced LLM to 1-year course was to motivate those people who are going for a shorter LLM to do it in India. You know, LLM, if you go to Bombay or Pune universities, you find enrollment is about 200. And many of them are advocates practicing. So I just do not know why we run such an LLM at all, because that can be given by distance education if you want some additional knowledge input only. But if it has to serve a purpose like academia, research and teaching, then it has to be structured differently. Well, with respect to the institutionalization of research, if you were to follow the model that was followed in physical and natural sciences, in India, the practice has been to set up research institute funded by the government to do the research, like the industrial and other, CSIR things. It has not been in the universities. Universities were mostly teaching institutes like that. But when these single faculty institutions came up, so in one of the meetings which Raj was also present in Sikkim Declaration, we asked for an Indian Council of Legal Research, which could fund legal research and promote legal research in selected law schools which have the capacity and which has the potential. Well, that sort of a thing would be streamlining to promote quality, cutting-edge research in institutions which have that capability. That may be one method of institutionalizing. Otherwise, some level of research invariably goes on in every institution. That probably is to improve the quality of teaching rather than to produce or create more knowledge. The question that she had asked the second speaker. Yes. Net, as you have mentioned, perhaps net means not eligible for teaching. The earlier it goes, I don't know. If left to me, I would appoint an assistant professor straight from the best of law LLB graduates who pass out of my institution. If they have the right attitude and communication abilities, they are better teachers instead of waiting for an LLM and then net. So therefore, the whole scheme needs to be changed, for which we have to liberate ourselves from UGC as well. Autonomy is the...
That's good. We'll have you.
But let me also caution you, just day before yesterday, the UGC has again issued a circular stating that net is absolutely essential. So it will be very difficult to extricate ourselves out of the net, okay? The second point is regarding Dr. P.J. Sudhakar's point. Please remember, we have never suggested that you must jettison the regular traditional subjects like torts, contracts, etc., etc. Now, there is no substitute for it. You have to continue to teach. And the Bar Council's syllabus or curriculum says, minimum you have to teach. For maximum, Bar Council does not stand in your way at all. Let me tell you very clearly. You are allowed to make healthy excursions to the extent possible and to the extent feasible. But fundamental subjects are like mother's milk. There is no substitute for it. You cannot jettison them, okay?
I'm mainly on research. Probably there are institutions, as Professor Maran said, that research can be within the institution. And you can create structures where the faculty, the students, and centers for research can be motivated. If you ever have time, come to AILU Delhi. We'll show you that how research can be institutionalized.
Okay. Distinguished guests on the dais, faculty members and dear students, when we see the higher education landscape, access, equity and quality are important considerations. And there are serious challenges in each of these fronts, and the same holds good for the legal education as well. And I want to thank all the distinguished speakers at the inaugural session for throwing light on the ailments of the Indian legal education and also coming up with a series of suggestions for reforming the legal education. And I want to thank each one of them profusely on behalf of our university. Professor Madhav Menon has been truly an institution builder, having established the National Law School Bangalore, NUJS Kolkata, and National Judicial Academy, and many other institutions. And he has also been a member of our academic council and has been guiding our efforts since inception. And I want to thank him for all his support and encouragement over the years. Professor Venkat Rao and Professor Ranbir Singh are both have an extremely busy schedule, and I want to thank them for sparing time from their hectic schedule. In fact, Professor Venkat Rao traveled from Bangalore after a late night meeting and arrived at 2 a.m. Today, and then it's really, thank you, sir, and for that you can at once see his level of commitment and that level of this thing to meet you and address this conference. I also want to acknowledge the presence of Professor Bhavani Panda, Dr. Manjula Batra, Professor Purvi Pokhriyal, Dr. Vivekanandan, Dr. Shantak Kumar, and other distinguished panelists for the coming sessions for gracing this occasion. And I want to thank our own Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, for conceiving a workshop or a conference on an important theme as a mark of, the 10th anniversary celebrations, and also topping it up with a distinguished public lecture by Prashant Bhushan later this evening. And I want to thank the Center for Postgraduate Legal Studies, and particularly Professor Sridhar Patnaik, Professor Kumar Paramjeet Singh, also ably aided and assisted by Executive Officer Anita Shibu, our own events team, and IT, Infra, FMO team, and the Master of Ceremony, Sanya Kapoor, and all the students for participating in this event. I request all of you to join us for tea, which is served near the stairs, and we reassemble after 15-minute break. Thank you.